Welcome everybody again to this interview series that I've been doing with professionals and experts as I seek to just answer some of the questions that we all have as we've been kind of, catapulted into remote working. We've pivoted really and have had to adjust pretty quickly. And so I say congratulations to all the team members and the businesses who are doing this. And some of us are working it out as we go along. Now, I am Beverly Thompson, CEO of Hulaine Strategic Services. And as you know, we do sales development, sales transformation, sales effectiveness, sales enablement. And during this time, we just wanted to share with our community, help our community, just to navigate as we go along. I'm really excited today. You can see the excitement on my face to have a fellow TV award winner with me today. Her name is Janice Sutherland. Now, Janice Sutherland is the CEO of the award-winning leadership and personal development consultancy, Sutherland Coaching and Consulting, based in the Caribbean. She provides leadership development and executive coaching for organizations globally. She's the author of international bestseller, This Woman Can, No BS, a guide for women who lead. And she also hosts a podcast called This Woman Podcast. Janice, we're so excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we met, and Janice resides in Antigua.
Yeah.
That's where you are.
Yes,
and we're both experiencing curfews and lockdowns, but it's all just following the guidelines. Today, we're going to talk about a very topical issue, and that topic is best practices for leading remote teams. I personally have received so many questions from business owners, from entrepreneurs, from managers, just saying, well, I used to see them coming to work. I used to interact with them frequently, or even if they were already remote working, I would have had a chance to see them personally. Now, how do I do lots of quick things? People have lots of questions. And actually, Janice has written about this already, right? So she's already tackling the topic. So we thought we would talk to her today because she's quite familiar with it. Some questions that people will have is, how do I communicate effectively with my team? How do I look at their performance? How do I evaluate performance? What does the workflow look like? How do I keep the team together? How do I get accountability going? How does that happen? And so today we're going to explore 5 areas really in that topic. And so let me just share with you what they will be. We're going to talk about setting clear expectations, communicating with the team, keeping the team together, accountability and performance, as well as just looking at how things will work or the workflow. So we're going to invite Janice now just to talk us through those, and then we will have a conversation. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Beverly. Yeah, you're right. It's a very topical question, a very topical subject. Personally, before having my own business, I was CEO for Digicel here in Antigua, and I managed a number of markets. So I had Antigua, Barbuda, and Montserrat. So there was a familiarity there with leading remote teams across different countries.
So
and in the UK, yes, and in the UK, I also had teams in different cities. And believe it or not, there's even nuances sometimes with having leading teams in different buildings, on different floors, because they are not there, So it's not on the level of being in a different country or a different time zone, but the fact is they are remote from you. And definitely in the Caribbean, what I find is that the concept of remote working is pretty alien. People, it's more about the case, the questions you said about how do I know they're working? How do I know what they're doing? And it's this inherent, if they're sitting in front of their PC, my assumption, I have to say assumption,
is that they're working.
They're working, they're being productive. When actually I could be playing Candy Crush behind that laptop. Absolutely. And you don't actually know what I'm doing. So for us as a leader, it's about creating that next level of trust, because it all comes down to trust on both ways, both sides. So
yes. Okay.
Trust as a leader that your people will do it, and trust from the staff that you're going to be able to do it.
Right. Okay. So how do we set those clear expectations so that, we can be on the same page as a manager and the team?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of us have been thrust into this very quickly. It's just like, well, there's a curfew coming. We're going to have to do this. You've got to work from home in literally a couple of days. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is to make sure you have some sort of, want a better word, onboarding document, but a document that lays out some clear guidelines as to what's expected working from home, even down to if you're doing video conferencing like this. How will you look? What will you dress? Don't turn up at the meeting in your PJs. You still need to maintain a certain level of professionalism. If you have had large teams and maybe you've had one contact and you need to delegate some of your activities, what is the chain of command? Who's now responsible for maybe those little enclaves, or maybe you're splitting down different projects to give you a more span of control? Yeah. Who's that person they need to report to? And if me, the individual, the employee, if I have a problem, where do I go? Who do I talk to? Make it quite clear that this is where you need to go. This is who you need to speak to. This is what's expected. And recognize the individual contribution. It's even more important in this environment, because before you'd probably pass someone's desk and go, yeah, great job, or that's well done. Oh, I just remembered that. You don't have that interaction anymore. Yes. So you have to make a point of saying, well, actually, you did a great job, or if you see it, recognize it in as real a time as possible, or in your check-ins, which we'll probably talk about in communication.
Okay, as we talk about setting clear expectations. Yeah. Because I would think that when you're physically in the office space, you probably would have had some of those clear expectations probably already. Yeah. However, because I'm seeing you, I have the opportunity to call you for a minute, or I have something to say, or I'd like to clarify that, and you can see the body language, etc. Yeah. But now, we are behind these screens. So how do we do that and ensure that the team understands very clearly what is expected and what is to be delivered? As you got into it, I wanted to mention and bring up, just address a little bit for us, the mindset going in. As a leader, the mindset, of this new remote work, because it can't be the same, right?
Yeah, this is probably the most difficult thing for traditional leaders, should I say, in the fact that, somebody in the seat equates to work. When actually, what you really should be focused on is what the actual output, what's the key objective here? The objective isn't how many hours that person's sitting in the seat. The objective is the work they produce at the end of it. So you have to change your mind to one of output. I think we also need to remember, if you as a leader have worked from home, think of your own working practices. You probably got up earlier in the morning. Before the kids got up, put a couple of hours extra in. You don't have the interruptions. You're doing several things. So you actually can be far more productive working from home because you don't have the interruptions. So really the focus should be, it's not how many hours have you sat in the seat, it's have you delivered to the deadline or the requirements I want in the specification outlaid.
Deliverables, deadlines, projects. Outcomes. And that's the mindset we need. We need to convert people sitting in a seat or clocking into work to more those very specific things. And actually that contributes more to the business, actually.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So talk to us a little bit about now communicating with the team.
Communication, it becomes even more paramount to get the right communication structure for you, because as you said, you don't have the verbal cues, the body language that you normally would do in the office. So if you're possibly, most larger organizations will have some sort of messaging tool already in place. If you're a small organization, you may think, well, normally I've only got a small team, what do I do? So there are lots of different maybe online programs, like Slack, for instance, is like a free messaging service for smaller teams. I would personally steer away from WhatsApp. It's a last resort, only because WhatsApp is very personal and you can't control it as much, when it comes to that.
You can't track it easily either.
You can't track it, and stuff like that. So try and stay away from WhatsApp. But obviously I appreciate if someone isn't technically minded, that it may be the most convenient tool for them to use.
Or if
so,
it's a quick conversation, or just want to check in with you on something. But for hard deliverables, I would imagine, and projects, you wouldn't want that to be sitting in your WhatsApp.
No.
Yeah.
But for check-ins, when you talked about check-ins there, have a regular check-in routine. So just as you would in maybe, I know for my call center days, you'd have daily buzz briefs in the morning. You know, you may have debriefs. So set a process where, well, the first 10 minutes of the day, we're going to talk about what expectations are, what deliverables, where we are, what's the tracking, what are the targets, what's important, what are the priorities.
Focus for the day.
Yeah, and maybe at the end of the day, you can have a debrief, another 10 minutes. Let's say, how did you get on? What were the triggers? What were the blocks? What you did, what couldn't you get over? Overcome. And how are you working? How are you feeling? More importantly, ask, how are you feeling working in this new environment? How do I need to support you more? How can I help you? Because it's new to them. The novelty will wear off. It's all well and good working from home, but the novelty will wear off, or I miss my friends. I miss the contact. I'm working from home my own at the moment. And as you know, I told you my husband's been mandatory quarantined. So I'm on my own. So I don't have anyone to talk to, So I'm like, okay. This is my life. So it'll be the same for your team. You'll be same for your team members. So you're making your routine. Make sure that your team are aware that if they do have a problem, who they need to come to. They can come to you. There's an open door policy. You can contact me. Don't feel like you have to keep it in. What are the lines of escalation if need be? And then coming back to the team element, make some time to maybe use the platform like Zoom or Skype to have like maybe a team briefing where a bit of pizza or something, because people are still delivering food, get a glass of wine, just something to still try and get some of that team camaraderie still going from the communication.
And togetherness.
Yes.
Some very excellent points. As you talked about some of the tools that keep us together, I am aware that some of my clients, when I interact with them, they use, for example, I have Microsoft Teams. I use bits of it, but not much of it, and I'm going to be using more of it now. And as you mentioned, Slack. There's one called Asana.
Asana, yeah.
There's another one called Plutio. There are just so many things out there that can help you. And then what the tools do as well is that it tracks the conversation. It tracks what you said you did when you said you did it. We can share documents, and so it's not physically sitting on somebody's desk rather, or on your own machine. So it's shareable, and so productivity is significantly increased when we work like this.
And it also helps with some of the accountability aspects. So again, if you're nervous from a leader perspective, that how do I ensure my team is accountable, then at least you have some sort of don't say audit trail, but you have some sort of trail that this was communicated. It's not the sole thing to rely on, but at least it's some support there to say, well,
go
look,
back and check
this and have a look at that.
And even from a team member perspective, say I didn't remember, what was agreed, the action points, etc. It is immediately available when we're finished with that conversation. Right. So the big one now, accountability and performance.
Okay.
That's what work is about.
So we talked about the focusing. You as a leader, the first thing is to focus on your output. That will make a whole lot of difference if you focus on the output, because you won't find yourself having to make numerous phone calls or feel like you have to call every single on the hour to make sure that the person is where they're supposed to be, you believe they should be, and stuff like that. So really focus on your output. When you communicate what your output is, be totally clear on the deadlines. What is expected, what's a non-negotiable, what needs to be delivered, and what the communication pathways are, as we talked about. If someone feels that they're slipping or they're not getting cooperation to deliver on the deadline, what do they need to do?
Okay, I have a question. What are communication pathways?
Communication pathways is just literally, who do I talk to? It's who do I talk to? So if I'm working several different projects, where do I go if something's going wrong here? If I need to escalate it, who am I talking to there? So just be very clear as to if something's going wrong, basically, where do I need to go?
Right. Okay.
So how do I communicate? Do I need to drop an email? Do I need to make a phone call? Do I need to drop a message in the group? Do I need to talk to you directly? what is it needs to be done if something
Right.
is going to hit when it should hit. You still have to have a culture of feedback, positive feedback. Nobody, even in the real world, nobody wants to be beaten up 24/7, being told they're doing a bad job. You know, so people still want to feel like, well, you know, you're doing a good job. I know it's difficult circumstances. If you know, but you did a great job here. This is what it looks like. This is how it can improve. Take some feedback for it.
Yes.
And then if you do find that someone, I don't know what it's like in Jamaica, but I certainly know here in Antigua and a couple of other islands I've worked in, that when it comes to dealing with poor performance or almost people are uncomfortable having that conversation.
Yes.
So instead of having the conversation, they avoid it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they think the best time to have that conversation is when, okay, you did something in January. I'm going to do your half yearly review in June. I'm going to refer to what you did in January in June. Now, that's 5 months.
Yes.
If something is going wrong,
Right.
you have to address it
Say
live.
it, address it. Right. Because it's difficult to remember what was happening at the time, the context that I was operating in when Janice, I did tell you that trucks pass, right? So we're going to continue to speak while these
We're good.
It's remote working. What can I say, right? One of the points I wanted to make, though, as you talked, that I was thinking, when you are communicating something that is not so good, sometimes it's a quick call. It's a quick come in, check in my office. Let us speak for 5 minutes. I can see your body language in terms of how you may be feeling about it as my team leader or my manager. And I can pick up on those cues and see really whether it's really, really bad or it's not so bad. But sometimes emails, man, they don't work for us very well.
No.
When we want to, and so if we don't know or we are, not quite sure how to communicate now in the remote world, we could be using emails for that. And emails, I can tell you, cannot be so friendly to your intent.
Yes.
Because you want to communicate an honest piece of feedback. But the way it's constructed in the email, your intention doesn't go over very well.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with tone, but it's quite interesting you said honest feedback, because again, another thing I come across here is that leaders tell me that I believe in honest feedback. And I'm like, okay, give me an example of honest feedback. Right. And honest feedback is telling me you did this way, and because you did it that way, this happened. I'm like, okay, that's not, what do you think the employee has learned or the team member has learned? All they've heard is you berating, telling me what I haven't done. What you haven't done is coached me to ask the questions to understand why I did it that way. Wow. Or what stopped me from delivering how you want to deliver. There's a lots of things that could be behind the reason why I did what I did. Right. So as a leader, it's really important for you to have a more coaching head on and ask the 5 major generals: what, where, why, when, how, who, when, that kind of stuff. Ask the open questions. Do not assume you know the answer. To act as if you don't know the answer, because you probably don't. Let's be honest. And ask the questions, because as you said, in an email, you're just firing off this in an email, and the tone, the intent. We've how many times have we read an email and go, cha, how many times have we read that and just put it to one side because we think this person's vexed, but all they actually wanted to do was say, look, I just need you to focus on this. Right. Bring it back, start asking more questions.
So if what you're saying as a leader, if we focus on getting to the root of the issue through a coaching methodology by asking why, what, who, when, where, it will get us to the same place without saying you did this.
Exactly. And that person then takes far more accountability.
Yes.
Because when you ask the questions, they suddenly realize it's their actions that got them to where they are.
Self-discovery,
Exactly.
The question is the answer, I say. Yes. The question is the answer.
Yes.
Right, yes, absolutely. All right, great. So far we've spoken about setting clear expectations, communicating with the team, keeping the team together, accountability, and performance, and then how do you, what you call the workflow? How do you get things working in the way that it's supposed to work?
The workflow again is just flicking back to accountability. Just make sure you do have your one-on-ones. If
Yes.
you one-on-ones, if you
Good
weren't
point.
doing them before, it's even more paramount to have them now.
Yes.
Because this is your ability. This is your time to check in with them, to ask the questions, to show some empathy, to show that you actually care as well. Not you know, and also time for that team member to talk about the challenge that they have. Just a simple question such as asking, how are you coping with this new environment, working this way, this new way of working, can solicit a lot of problems. And as a leader, you probably know your team. You know, if you're a small team, you probably know if your team is like out of sorts, a team member, or isn't the usual jovial self, you know, that you usually used to. So you can ask those questions just to pick up on the nuances that something is very different. And find out what it is. So
and even some basic information, as in, I have, as an employee, may not have had a reason to take out any decent or proper broadband service from my telecom provider. Right?
Exactly.
Do I have that to support me at home, or you're just expecting me to go home and plug in and start working?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if you assume that I need to up my bandwidth, for instance, that's going to cost me more money. Can I afford to do it? You know, so you have to almost think a little bit. You have to think differently, and maybe try and see from the employee's perspective, how are you making this transition as smooth for them? Because it's difficult for them as it is for you.
Yes. And I think that this whole remote working thing and what's going on now is an opportunity. It's going to change the mindset of both the managers and the team members. And the new expectations are going to be set, and the new behaviors are going to be honed as well. Because the remote work is going to force us now to look more from the performance, the deliverables, the projects, the output, as you call them, and not necessarily just turning up forward. And then, as you were talking, it will force us, if we want to be more empathetic, vulnerable leaders. Understanding things from your staff perspective.
Definitely.
It will also improve the communication skills, as you mentioned as well, and also forcing us to find creative ways of keeping the team together.
Yes.
Because when you're in office, I can see you, we can, have a pizza together, a drink together, but no, how is that going to happen? Right?
I always tell leaders they have to have a MacGyver mindset. You know, there is solutions. There is a solution there. You just
what type of mindset?
MacGyver.
Okay.
MacGyver. So there's always a solution. You just have to think differently to find it. You know, and what are the tools you have available in order for you to get the deliverables you're looking for? You have to work with what you've got, and what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, Janice, I think we've tackled quite a number of topics here today. Thank you so much for joining us again. This is my third episode that we're dealing with. The first one we looked at leading a sales team remotely. Then we talked about how to protect your devices and your company's information. And today we talked about best practices for leading remote teams. Now, Janice, actually, she's very active on LinkedIn. She's part of mastermind groups. She writes, she speaks, and she also, her business is about leadership coaching. And I think she actually has a special running now on her LinkedIn page. And if you sign up, you can get some very, very valuable insights from a global award-winning leadership coach who also does podcasts. So thank you very much for joining. I am Beverly Thompson, CEO of Hulaine Strategic Services, doing sales development, sales effectiveness, sales coaching, sales management. I enjoy what I do. I really, really love the area of sales, and I am going to continue to provide more content by reaching out to my community and interviewing people and talking to them about things that matter right now, that can help us in our own environment. So bye for now. Thank you so much, Janice. And we can find you on LinkedIn, right?
You can sign up for Janice Sutherland. Yes, you can. It's effective leadership in a remote world.
Yes.
So it's an online group coaching specifically for leaders who are leading remote teams.
Excellent. And thank you for your contribution. Bye for
You're
now,
welcome.
everybody, and look for episode 4 coming soon.